I would say this: do not take things personal, because it's not always going to be about you. It's sometimes they just, teenagers are going to be teenagers, but don't take it personal. Get involved right in their life as much as you can, but be intentional about that one-on-one time.
Welcome to the Faithful Fathering Podcast. Thank you for joining us. This is Rick Wirtz, founder and president of Faithful Fathering, where we encourage and equip dads to be faithful fathers and come alongside the church to help reinvigorate the church on the fathering front. In this podcast series, we're talking about the transition out of summer and getting ready to go back to school. In the studio with me to have a dialogue around this is a dear friend of the ministry, as well as your husband and father of 5 and the operations manager for Faithful Fathering. Thank you for joining us, Jason.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's a
blessing
pleasure
to have you here. And we're talking about getting ready to go back to school. We've talked about the 3 R's of education in the home and 3 R's associated with the school. We've talked about coming back to school with a young child, getting ready to take them into those early elementary years. And I'd like to this time to talk a little bit more about that, those kids in the middle school and high school range. I know you still have 2 in the home that are in this range, what I call the coach season of fathering, which I'll do a shameless plug for our book. If you go to our website, you can pick up the book, Seasons of Fathering. That's a handbook for life for dads to navigate through these seasons, what we call the teacher season, the coach season, and the counselor season of fathering. And as we look at this coach season, I think of a word that's engagement. If during the teacher season we have to be very intentional in our efforts, in this coach season, our challenge is to stay engaged, isn't it? As our children start to mature and they get their own bent, their own set of friends, their own activities that they want to participate in. They don't necessarily want dad. I always think of the biggest difference between the younger years and the older years is, I remember taking a Happy Meal into school with the elementary school, and I was the dad of the week, and my kids were anxious and excited to see me at school. That's not cool in middle school.
Oh, no. No way.
So I think as we look at this with your 2 kids there, what are some differences as far as you transitioning them to get ready for school versus your youngest daughter?
So yes, teenagers are a lot different. So it was interesting. A good point was, I found out last month, that was about the beginning of August, actually. I was taking my daughter, some back to school shopping, and they have to get things for school. Now, I found myself with a car full of 5 teenage girls, my minivan full. So it was like, oh, okay. But I realized that she wanted to go shopping with her friends. So what do? Hey, I'll be the driver and I'll spend the money. But it was a beautiful thing, actually, Rick, because although, it wasn't a one-on-one moment, but it was, I became the cool dad. So the girls were appreciative and they said, oh, your dad is nice. He's going to take us to the mall. So it was cool. And we went to a little fast food restaurant after, got to hang out. So, sometimes it's going to be, you're going to have to go with the group.
So that's the transition was that you had to shop.
I had to shop. I had to
get
spend
those
some
back
money.
to school clothes together. And
Exactly.
They weren't the same clothes you bought your little girl.
Oh no, much different.
Well, but what a beautiful time though as well. And she gets to re-engage with some of her friends you're going to go to school with, but you also get to know some of her friends as well, right?
And that. That's key. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was intentional about that too. I want to know what kind of company are, my children keeping. So the girls were really kind and sweet and generous and very humble. And I would say a couple of them were Christians even, they voiced that. So that was a good thing.
That is a good thing to have Christian friends in school. I wish I'd have had that tip when I was there. Now, obviously, these kids, they understand the responsibility they have. They may be even under a lot of pressure to get grades and what have you, depending on what they're trying to do next in their journey and their career. But how do you prepare them for understanding that they're moving into they're coming out of summer, they're moving back into the school routine. Are they just immediately to that level? Is there a transition time that you try to orchestrate ahead of the school year at all?
Yes, good question. So in the summer, well, right before school, a few weeks, we discuss it. We kind of like, what's your game plan? How do you feel? How do you want to do this year? What's your goals and different things?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them realistically, I tell them do your best,
Mm-hmm.
do the best you can. Don't attend any class not giving full effort. Communicate with us, with your parents, with the teachers and different things if you're having challenges. But I do check-ins with them intentionally. But before the school year, I'm like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? Like my oldest daughter's looking at different colleges right now. So I'm like, you realize you have to have a certain GPA, you have to have all these requirements. But at the same time, I'm not the type of father that's performance-based where you have to get 100% all A's. I say shoot for the, what do they say? Shoot for the stars. You shoot for the moon, you hit the stars. So do the best you can, pray, engage, and now we stay on top of it, especially my bride. She's on top of their grades. But it's more like give your full effort. Let us support you in the way that we can. Teacher conferences, things like that, and they do well. They do well with that.
Now you've run into it. There's going to be it's in this window of time that a child will probably experience their first failure on a test. They may experience a first friend turning against them. They may experience the first time they don't make band or make that team. How are you preparing, or how have you prepared your kids, or have you helped your kids navigate through these things that they're going to face through this time?
Absolutely. I love how you said that failure. My kids have definitely brought home failed tests. And I didn't, I spoke to them about it, of course. And, the first question is, did you do your best? And sometimes they're like, well, I didn't study as much as I could. But I tell them, don't let it define you. Don't let this one failure. We all go through trials and tribulations, and then I kind of share a word of encouragement and kind of lift them up in the moment. And I say, what are we going to do going forward? Let's see what we can do to up that grade. And a lot of times the teachers will have grace and they'll allow them to retake. So I show them like, hey, look, the teacher said you can retake it. No problem. Let's do. I'll help you study. So I've literally broken out those index cards and things like that and gone through it with them, so I can show you like your dad is supporting you as well.
So you're actually coaching.
I'm actually coaching
in the coach season.
Yes.
What a concept! I remember very well. My daughter came home with a bad math score, and I said same thing, honey. I said, did you do your best? Well, I thought I did,
Right.
And said, well, I've failed tests before too. No, Dad, you never failed a math test. You're an engineer, I said, no, I certainly experienced failure, and it's part of the journey. The question it isn't the failure that shapes you; it's how you respond to the failure and the shortfall. So I've also heard some fabulous stories of children not making a band or making a team, and they'll go on their own. I mean, if the dad has planted the seed, they'll follow up and say, hey, coach, or hey, teacher, what can I do to improve in this area? What can I do to make the team next time? What can I do to get into the band next time around? Or what can I do to get a better grade in this class? They're just understanding that maybe there's something they missed, and they can take some initiative themselves to, if you coach in the right way and say, hey, this is, I'm not here to protect you from failure. I'm here to help you grow through your failures. I think that's a tough line sometimes for a dad to see a child really hit a valley. But I think those valleys are, I don't know, have you seen in your own life, or in maybe there's an example with one of your children where you had a little bit of a valley, you saw them work through it and come back stronger?
Yes, that's great. I instantly think about my son that's now 16, Josiah. And my wife and I had a good conversation with him. This happened just this summer, actually. He was hanging with a group of friends that weren't great influences. They were doing some things. And then it caused him to make some bad choices. And one particular night, he had went somewhere where he wasn't supposed to. He didn't text us and let us know or call us. and we told him not to go to the party, but he went to the party anyway. So anyway, long story short, we ended up having a conversation with him and like, hey, this is not your character. This is not. And we noticed the young men that you went with, they don't make good choices all the time. They're not bad kids. They just, they're under a different influence. So we had that good conversation, and then he faced consequences for that, and he was grounded for a while. But ultimately, it came out where he apologized and he said, you're right, Mom and Dad. Those guys, they were probably not good influence for me. And from that situation till now, he's communicated well. He says, hey, can I go here? And if we say no, he might get a little upset still, but he makes better choices as a result of that.
So you established some. We talked about rules in the previous segment, but so how do those rules change now that your children are in this age? Because teenagers, you let the rope out a little bit,
yes,
but you don't let go of the rope either, right?
Right. So we let them go out till a certain point. It depends on the weekend, what's going on. We'll let them stay out maybe till midnight, but they have to be with, certain people and parents that drop them off, pick them up. Mm-hmm. But we'll give them a little bit more freedom and say, hey, we're going to trust you. And so we allow them to do some more things normally we wouldn't. And so they've taken it well, because what I've learned, honestly, Rick, and, tip to parents, if you're so stringent and so hard and never let them do anything, they're going to rebel eventually. It's going to catch up,
Right.
So,
I was like a dear friend that they extend the opportunity for senior privilege in their home.
I like
and
that.
the idea was that they knew this, the children knew about it coming up through middle school and high school, that if you're establishing the trust, that you're making good decisions, you're respecting the rules, and even when the rules are backed off a little bit, you still live by those guidelines. That come senior year, there would be no curfew. There would be no rule. Everything is let go. So if you're going to fall off the rails, it's going to happen while you're still at home. Right?
That's better.
I thought that was an interesting concept. But were there any glimpses across this summer that you said, all right, he or she is becoming a young adult now?
Yeah, there were some cool moments. My daughter that's 17 got her first job, so that was really cool. Showed a lot of responsibility. She went and applied for different jobs, and she got a job.
Fantastic.
And she's been working since the summertime, even now into school. So she handles her homework, her school, and she goes to work a few hours a week, manageable. And then my son, he had a big adversity. I'm so proud of him. He broke his finger in a basketball tournament, which was not good, but he ended up fighting through that adversity, still working out, even with his cast on and everything. And he had a positive attitude through the whole thing. So I'm proud of him for fighting through that. And now he's on the basketball team.
Fantastic. So how do you build on each of those situations with your daughter's willingness to take on responsibility of a job and that routine? How do you build on that across the school year?
That's a great question, Rick. So one thing that I've done is, as she's working, making sure she's manageable with that in her schoolwork, which she has been very responsible. When she goes out on the weekends with her friends and she's allowed to go to the movies and different things, she spends part of her paycheck. And so we've gone over budgeting, giving to ministry, different things like that, to build upon, okay, you have this responsibility, you're receiving this amount of income, to teach her stewardship, to teach her budgeting with her finances, teach her how to give, teach her how to, treat herself, just different aspects like that.
Mm-hmm. So I know when I grew up, there was always a mandate for the kid. As our kids were growing up, I'd say, you need to put at least 10% to the church, a good chunk into savings, at least 10% into savings, and then you can enjoy, getting some other stuff with the other money, or that kind of budgeting and that kind of idea that they would have some financial management even from a very young age would be is a powerful powerful step. So when you're working through your daughter's a senior, your son's a sophomore this year, so you're getting to that point where they're looking at the next step. How are you using has the education and their activities and has their bent, what their unique giftedness, how are you nurturing that as part of the school year as well?
Oh yeah, great question. So with my daughter, she has a couple interests. She's art as well, but she does cosmetology and then she has psychology. So she enjoys those things. So she wants to go to school to be for psychology to be a counselor, family practice. So we're cultivating her with that. And then also she wants to do hair on the weekends, hair and nails, which for women. So we've been having those conversations, how we can nurture her gifting
And counsel while she's doing their hair.
There you go. Yes, sir.
A unique business model.
It's a very unique business model. It's needed. So that's pretty cool. And she's very passionate about it. And then my son loves computers. He wants to major in computer science. And so he's going to be taking some high school classes, but also definitely in college he wants to major. And the cool thing is my wife does that for a living. So she gets to teach him those type of things as well.
Oh, fantastic. So there's some complementary things going on there. You're looking ahead as well as preparing them in this new school year. Oh, fantastic. Well, any other tips for dads in this coach season of fathering as they might be prepared, help prepare them for kids that are going to stumble on occasion?
Yes. I would say this: do not take things personal, because it's not always going to be about you. It's sometimes they just, teenagers are going to be teenagers, but don't take it personal. Get involved right in their life as much as you can, but be intentional about that one-on-one time. I like how you shared one time with me, Rick. What I do, it was called windshield time. You taught me that. And so while I'm teaching my kids how to drive, I ask them questions, we have conversations, or if I'm taking them back and forth to school.
Fantastic. Now, engagement is a tough word.
Yes.
How do you and your bride, through this season in particular with teenagers, fight that effort to be maybe intrusive into their life? I mean, we have the right to be intrusive. Obviously, a coach can always call timeout and change the play. I mean, you have that, and you can be intrusive to that degree if someone's in danger, bad group of kids, bad situation, whatever the case may be. But how do you and your bride, any tips for dads out there, how they and just share how you and your bride keep each other in check, not to be intrusive, but to be engaged in a way that is healthy?
Great question. We give them we respect them and their privacy. We knock on their door and say, "Hey, you have a minute to talk?" We kind of give them their space like that. We're very careful because we want them to know that we care, but we don't want to be so, like you said, intrusive. Engaging. Guess what? Teenagers still like ice cream. Hey, y'all want to go to get some ice cream? They will jump up quick. So that's an easy way of engagement and brings up good conversation and time with them.
Sure. And but you still have the rule that nothing good happens after 11 o'clock at night on the phone.
That's not going to change.
Well, there you go, dads. You have some great tips through the coach season of fathering as kids go back to school to help kids understand that, there's a lot of challenges to get grades together and to perform well in school, but there's going to be some valleys as well. So I just encourage you, dads, to be in tune. Use your secret weapon, which is mom, to know when to truly engage and when not. But always capitalize on the opportunities to take your daughter out on a date, your son out for an ice cream, whatever's necessary to stay engaged, in tune with what's happening in their lives. So enjoy this school year and be the dad you're called to be, the dad the next generation needs to see. God bless, Godspeed. Thank you again, Jason.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.